So research and evidence of successful implementation of teaching for mastery. So these are things we're going to look at. And then we have conclusions. Now let's start. What is teaching for mastery? Teaching for mastery. So we said teaching for mastery is an instructional approach that emphasizes a deep and thorough understanding of core concepts. Please take note of that. And skills before progressing to more advanced topics. It focuses on ensuring that all students master the fundamental knowledge and skills of the subject, providing a foundation for future learning. So in a nutshell, in summary, what teaching for mastery is all about, it is just for us that if you are teaching your student to understand the core thing in that subject, not just to pass exam. Apart from teaching them to know the core parts of the subject, you're also teaching them to know that what you are doing is not just for this class alone. It is also continuously in how you are going to live your life, especially in academic pursuits. So this is one very important part of teaching for mastery. Secondly, you don't expect all students to understand everything you are doing at the same time. You have experience, yes. Even if you use the best method, there are still some students that will not understand. So again, you have to wait. You have to be patient with them. Continuously give them assessments, get feedback from them, give them more. And then when you have succeeded in that way, then you can move on. So which means that there are steps of how we can go about teaching for mastery. First, make sure you give them the course of core knowledge. Teach well. Give them the basis. Two, give them assessments. Let them try. They did not do well. Get feedback from them. Assess them. Give them another one again until they master that step before you move to another one. I'm sure many of us will be thinking in our mind that in exercise, when that children will come and tell me, you are still in one. And this is why, yes, there are aspects I was talking about that. I've considered all of that while preparing all of these. Many things that will be in the mind of teachers. Because I know I'm a teacher. I want to be in class, teaching very well. Even sometimes tends to be overwhelming. And I know what I saw. So don't worry, I will explain this more. So this is one aspect that I want us to understand about the teaching for mastery. One, teaching students to understand the core of the subject. Two, they don't understand, give them more assessment, get feedback from them, give them more. If they are succeeded in that way, they will move on to the next part. So this is the definition for teaching for mastery. Now let's look at the importance of teaching for mastery in education. What are the importance of teaching for mastery in education? The first one is it promotes a deeper level of understanding. Of course, you know. If you explain very well in the class, like for instance, someone who wants to teach demand and supply, and then you just start by saying demand is this definition, good definition. Supply is this. But you can give a scenario, just very simple scenario of how demand works and how supply works. And this student, you don't need to explain. They will do the explanation themselves. We will see that when I'm giving an example of, I use demand and supply as an example for economics. So this is promoting a deeper level of understanding. Two, enable students to apply knowledge in real life situations and fosters critical thinking and problem solving skills. So there's no way, and you know, just like in maths, and probably I'll give you more maths as an example. You know in maths, there are levels that you do for instance, one student will understand polynomials very well, my maths teacher will know. And then you have not taught quadratic equation. That student knows nothing about quadratic equation. There's no way they will understand polynomials. So you have to start from polynomials. And then when it's coming from quadratic equation, and a bit forward, you start polynomials, it will be a bit easy for them to understand. Because they have the core knowledge of what quadratic equation is all about. So this, that is it fosters critical thinking and problem solving skills. 3, it reduces achievement gaps. You know, everybody will understand that in a class, in many of our classes today, you discover that after explaining, you only see like 2 to 3 students that will tell you that there's no problem. The rest of them will tell you, I don't understand. So what do we do? But if you follow the step of teaching for mastery, starting with the core, the simplest part of that subject, and that is what this is all about. You are not starting from just definition in the textbook, but you are starting from the simplest part of that subject. I'm telling you, there's no way even a dull student will understand at least 50% of what you are explaining, even if not 100%. He's a dull student, we know he's a dull student, but just 50% you will understand by you taking it to the lowest of the low with respect to how you explain all of this in the class. So it reduces gaps or achievement gaps in the class. Many of your students will go along with you, not having only 3 you understand, and about 17 of them in the class, they are still struggling with what you are doing. If you follow teaching for mastery method, there's no way you have this gap in your class. 4, it increases student engagement and prepares students for higher level learning. And this is what I explained about me doing a subject like a matrix in 300 level. If I had not known this in 100 level or in SS3, there's no way I will understand. You will not believe that during that period, I had some of my friends that came to engineering department, but they don't know all of this, that we will still have to explain it to them. Why? Because I believe maybe they were not taught well, or maybe some of them did not even do further maths in their secondary school. So there's no way you have this knowledge that you cannot improve on it when you get to university level. Traditional versus mastery-based learning. So let's look at what they are all about. What we are doing now, we teachers in class. The traditional learning, emphasizing covering a broad range of topics without ensuring complete mastery of each topic. Am I wrong? No. Even if you don't respond, I know that I am not wrong. It is clear. This is what we do. We just teach, HOD will come now for inspection. You are in week 1. You are still doing week 1 work, and HOD is coming in week 4. Even me, I've done that to my teachers very well, I know. This is what we are facing as educationists in Nigeria, as people that are to implement policies. Some people are sitting there planning it for us. We are just implementing. And when they come, we are not doing what we are supposed to do. They will still query us through the school. And we don't want the school to call me that, Mr. Kende, the inspectors from Resource Center, Abuja, came, and they said, all your maths teachers, they are still in week 1 when they are supposed to be in week 2. And then I will not stand in the front and say, please, sir, in mathematics department, we are following teaching for mastery. And that's why we are in week 1. They will look at me like this, that, Kai, this one. So this is what we do. Emphasizing covering a broad range of topics without ensuring complete mastery of each topic. This is the traditional way, what we do now in class. Now let's see teaching for mastery. Mastery-based learning prioritizes depth of understanding and mastery of core concepts before moving on to a new material. In 2011, before I joined NTIC back, in NTIC, I was first in foundation. My joining NTIC for the first time was, I joined them through UFP. We call it UFP, University Foundation that time. Was in boys boarding for those that were here that time. I know many of you are not here. Only few, maybe Madam Onoja, Mr. Matthew, Mr. Abuka. I'm still looking at people that may be around that time. Mr. Lawal, my Oga. So that time, we were University Foundation, and then I left, and then I came back. So when I joined NTIC, in my former school, before coming back, we traveled to UK, to Manchester precisely, to a school, it's called Selendanook High School in Manchester. So and I was representing head of science department from that school to UK then. So they said, for me visiting, because we have a collaboration with British Council, that school, that I am working with the HOD of science there. We are doing how we can generate oil, petroleum from orange peel. This bark of orange, how we can generate. We're doing that research, myself and the HOD there. So they said for my coming to UK, I have to teach a class just for them to have a feel of a Nigerian HOD. So they asked me to take chemistry, either chemistry or math, because I was HOD science in my former school. I was taking chemistry and math. So I said, no, maths would be okay for me. So I taught maths. They gave me the scheme, and I saw identities. So for me, identity in maths, I believe they are just identities that we have in further maths. And I checked their work. That's what I saw there. So when I got to class, I started teaching, blah, blah, blah. All of them, they were just looking, year 10. I was to take year 10. They were just looking at me. Like, in my mind, I said, oh, this one, nothing mad.
I look at all this one. I need to speak English. I was saying it in my mind. Oh, is my English that poor that they are looking at me like... So somebody, one of us that we went together, caught my attention that it's more like they did not understand this topic. And I said, but it is what's in their textbook. So he now said, no, in this class, they have 2 year 10. They are using different books. One, they are using the normal book going along with the normal scheme. The other one, they like a breakdown of what they have in the first one in the same class, and they are still going to write the same exam. So I checked their books. Even I brought the book to Nigeria when I was coming back for me to show my school then. But I explained to them, they said, Kennedy, our proprietor then was one woman, very nice woman. He said, Kennedy, this is Nigeria. You don't know the principle they are following, and I understood that truly, for them, maybe they have a method, and this is why training is very important. We cannot ever emphasize usefulness of training in the life of teachers. I believe they have a training of which this same student will write the same exam, but in the same class, they are using different textbooks. But at the end of the day, they still write the same exam. So which means they have a way by which they do it, which we in Nigeria maybe we don't know because we don't have such kind of training. So this, I believe, is one of those things that I also want to advance in NTIC, that if you can have a resource person that has gone through all of this before, that can train us, train our teachers on what to do with respect to teaching for mastery. And this, I believe, will assist our students very well. It will make them go beyond not just coming to school to pass exam. Of course, in teaching for mastery, you are doing 2 things. One, you are making them understand the core of the subject, and you're also training them to what? To pass exam. Because why are you in school? You have to pass exam for you to move to another class. So this is what we see in mastery-based learning. Key differences and benefits of mastery-based learning. 1, students are not rushed to keep up with the pace of the entire class, like the example I gave now, what they are doing in that class. 2, provides personalized learning experiences based on individual needs and progress. So this, we said this before in our, like last year, we talked about personalized learning, and then we want our teachers to make sure that we are implementing this principle of differentiated learning in class. And that means we are attending to individual students. We want to see what they are doing. This one is progressing, this one is not progressing. Don't just, everybody, don't worry. If you don't understand, don't worry. Simulator, we know that simulator, it doesn't exist, you know. Yeah, everybody, don't worry, you don't understand, simulator. But that simulator, no students will come, especially students of this generation. They will not come, and that is the end. But in this, I believe we can find a way of meeting with them, trying to bridge the gap between those that are good and those that are finding it difficult to understand what we are teaching in class. Students gain a deeper understanding of the subject matter. I've also given an example of this one before, like what they are doing in SS3, and then you see the advanced form of it in university, and they're still doing well because they have done the basic parts in secondary school, which they understood, and they were taught by a very good and excellent teacher. Key principles of teaching for mastery. I told you there are 4 of them. The first one is, we call it mastery learning circle. Students engage in the cyclical process of learning, practicing, receiving feedback, and reassessing until they demonstrate mastery. So the same thing, I've explained this one also. First, teach them, give them work, get feedback, give them another work. When they are done, they have succeeded in this step, then you move to the next one. So this is the first part. First key principle of teaching for mastery. Secondly, is emphasizing on depth of understanding, prioritizes conceptual understanding over rote memorization, allowing students to apply knowledge to new situations. We know memorization is one of the ways by which we teach these days. Don't worry, just put it in your head. Don't worry, put it in your head. And many of our students, they will put it in their head. They will write exam. You know, I don't know if you have called any of your students after exam, 10 minutes after exam, call him. Guy, what is this? He wrote that in exam. What is this? He won't be able to say 1. Like 1. Because he memorized. You know, in Yoruba, we call it Agberu Beso. You just cram it, enter exam or pour it down. As you are pouring it down, the thing is going. You will not see it there again. 10 minutes later after the exam, ask the student, You will not be able to say anything. So this, we don't do it in mastery for teaching. And this is one principle that, no, we don't allow students to just memorize, but we make sure that they understand the core so that it can be useful for them. They can remember anytime. 3, targeted instruction. Tailors instruction to individual needs, providing additional support or challenges as necessary. So, like the example I gave in UK, in the same class, one student is using this textbook, another one is using this, but the two of them will still write the same exam. So, which means they have a way by which they adopt that, and at the end of the day, we still meet up at a point. 4, formative assessment, ongoing assessment that inform instruction and provide feedback to guide students' learning. So, of course, we know that summative assessment is usually at the end, but our assessment is in class or in lesson assessment. We want to say, yes, of course, I want to appreciate every one of us. Many of us, we are doing this in our various classes. Even without anything, by our activity, we do it a lot. Okay, give them worksheets, and they are doing something like this. So this is part of the key principles. So which means it's not like we are not doing anything about teaching for mastery, just that we are doing part and we are leaving some part out, which I believe we can also improve on it. Examples. Now, this is very important. At this point, my respected HODs, please, you can help me give our participants, good teachers, their worksheets. And in the example, I will show example on this subject. So you are going to be given this paper. Everybody, all departments, you don't have the same thing. If you are in the same department, you have the same paper. If you are in different departments, you don't have the same thing. Your topic, I think, is algebraic equation. In English, I think, is clauses. In economics, supply and yes. In government, I think it is policy. But don't write anything yet. Just get your paper. I will give example, then you will start your own. Okay, can we move on? Okay, I'm waiting 2 minutes. 2 minutes. Please, don't write yet. You're not writing anything. After all the examples, none of those topics you have in those papers you will see here. You have your own new topic, but you are going to follow the same process. And in my own year, I gave about seven examples for each. So yours, you are giving just 3. So let's see. Okay, can we move on? Now let's start. I'm starting with maths. I want to start with maths. Attention, please. Okay, I'll break for 5 seconds. Okay, thank you. Now let's start with maths. So this is what I'm going to do. I will show, we're going to have 2 things. I'll give example of, Mr. Bray, this thing is not working. Okay, so I'll give example of, as a maths teacher, I'm going to take fraction as a topic, maths teacher, GSS1 topic. So I'm going to give the traditional approach, what we do in class. And I want you to check my maths teachers. If I made a mistake, don't say it. If you say it. So I have the traditional approach, what we do in class. Then I'm also going to show the teaching for mastery approach. If you are using the method of teaching for mastery, how are you supposed to take fraction? So like this. The first thing we do in class, maths teachers, We start by saying, begin with explanation of what fractions are, using textbook definition and example. Wrong or right? Right. Again, we say present fraction notation, basic fraction arithmetic rules. Again, we move ahead to say, provide a set of practice problems focusing on performing operations like addition, subtraction, multiplication, and division of fractions. Yes, these are the steps that we follow in traditional way of teaching fraction for GSS1. Again, emphasize memorization of rules and procedure. Of course, we teach them how to find LCM. Everybody know this, LCM, this is how to find it. Simple. And then we move on. Again, continue to provide practice problems that follow standard format. And finally, okay, remaining one, administer assessment that primarily test the ability to apply fraction operation. And finally, the focus is on getting correct answer rather than understanding, and so on. There are still more of them. This is what we do in class. I'm also a math teacher. We don't do beyond this, maybe a few more. But in teaching for mastery method, because we want them to understand, not just to pass exam, we start like this. This is the first thing. Begin with concrete material like fraction bars, circles, or real-life examples to help students visualize and manipulate fractions. You don't start to go to textbook, copy what is in textbook and start teaching fraction, numerator, and denominator. No. We are starting with this, showing them bars. If you divide bars, what is this of this? Remove this one and put this one. So this is the first thing if you are to use the method of mastery-based learning. 2, use hands-on activities that allow students to physically partition and combine fractions, building a deep understanding of what fractions represent. Yes, we have to do this. Thirdly, introduce visual representations like diagram, number lines, area models to help students bridge the gap between concrete experiences and abstract. Again, guide students in representing fractions using these visual tools, emphasizing the relationship between the part and the whole. You know, this part and the whole is a major problem for students. So, but in many of our classes, for our textbooks, they don't mention something like this. They just give us fraction A over B, and then they will write A is numerator, B is denominator. The next thing is addition and subtraction of fraction. 1 over 2 minus 4 over 5. What is the answer? And the next thing we'll explain is how do you find LCM of 4 and 2? Just rule this line and so on. But the basic concept of fraction itself, these students, they don't understand. And that's why, do you know that many of our students, they fail more in SAT exam than WAEC exam? Have you done that? Have you tried to check that statistics? Many of our even good students, they do better in WAEC, but they don't do well in SAT exam. Because SAT exam, it is more of a logical question. Logical, and not just understanding formula. If you know formula, you can do well in WAEC. Even in JAM, you can do well. But if you know formula, you may not get something that you desire or something that you want in SAT exam. Maths, for instance. And finally, this. Next, I am taking English language. So, Mr. Alfa, if I am wrong, don't say it. So, I just put something, but I think this is what we do. If not 100% correct, but I think maybe 70%, 60% correct. What they do in class when they are teaching, traditional way. So we use traditional method, and then we also check the teaching for mastery for this topic. First, English teachers, begin with textbook definition of independent and dependent clauses. Right or wrong? Thank you. 2, present the basic concept without extensive context. Don't worry, don't respond. 3, teach students the types of clauses and provide textbook examples. Yes. Focus on memorizing the definitions and identifying examples. Yes, we know, yes. Even if you don't say yes, I know it's yes. Assign passing exercises where students break down sentences into clauses. Yes. That's even not all. Even this part, not all teacher does this, not all of them. Very, very few of them. Next, teach students to isolate clauses in sentences without necessarily combining them. Yes. Limited exploration of sentence complexity or creative use of clauses. introduce subordinate and coordinate conjunctions. And finally, I want to stop here, limited exploration of their usage in constructing complex sentences. So this is what ordinarily and traditionally a teacher would do in class. But now let's see, if you are using the method of teaching for mastery, how do we go about this topic? One, they say, begin by explaining the concept of clauses as grammatical units contain a subject and a predicate. Is this correct? Thank you. 2, use relatable examples and sentence structures to illustrate the different types of clauses. 3, introduce independent and dependent clauses as well as their subtype, noun, adjective, adverbial clause. Story. Provide clear definitions and examples of each type. Engage students in analyzing sentences to identify clauses and their function. Encourage them to deconstruct sentences and recognize how clauses contribute to meaning. Assign activities where students combine independent and dependent clauses to create complex sentences. Encourage creativity in composing sentences with different types of clauses. And finally, teach students how clauses can be related through subordination and coordination. Provide examples and guide them in identifying these relations in sentences. There's no way, I believe, a student will be taught in this way that he will not understand and still remember what clause is all about. Let's be fast. Economics. Economics teacher. Stop. It's my guy. You know that I'm wrong. Traditional approach and teaching for mastery approach. So let's see. Economics teacher that are here. First, command, demand, and supply. Oh, Mr. Lawal say. Provide textbook definitions of supply and demand, emphasizing the concept's basic meaning. Yes, this is what we do. 2, present supply and demand as separate entities without deep connection. Teach students to memorize the shapes of supply and demand curve without much explanation. 4, focus on labeling axes and curves rather than understanding their significance. 5, show how changes in price can affect quantity demanded and quantity supply. Provide simple scenarios with straightforward changes to prices and quantities. Discuss a limited number of factors that can affect supply and demand. And then the last one. Now let's go to teaching for mastery method. You can see. 1, begin by introducing basic concept of supply and demand using real-world example. Without even mentioning the definition of demand and supply. Even by example, is enough to explain what demand and supply is for students. 2, help students to understand the fundamental idea of how supply and demand interact to determine prices and quantities in markets. Use graph to visually represent supply and demand curves. Guide students in understanding the axis, equilibrium point, due to changes in factors like price, consumer preference. Provide students with a variety of to analyze where changes in supply or demand could occur. Encourage students to apply their understanding of the concept to predict the potential effect of price in quantity. And explore in depth the factor that can shift supply and demand curves, such as changes in input prices, technology, consumer income, and preference. And then the last one. So this is for economics. Now let's see biology. Mr. Liu. Traditional approach, cell structure. They begin with lecture that introduces basic component of cell as outlined in the textbook. Yes. Provide definition and description of organelles. Yes. Distribute diagrams of cells and ask students to label organelles. Yes, this is what we do in class. Focus on rote memorization of organelles, names, and location. Yes. Assign flashcards or worksheet. This one is even not all teachers will do this one. For students to memorize the function of different organelles. Yes. Emphasizing on recall rather than understanding. Discuss functions of organelles in isolation, connecting them to overall cell function. And we have present slides comparing different cell types, e.g. plant, animal, and prokaryotic cells. Now let's see. For teaching for mastery approach. 1, Begin with engaging activity that sparks curiosity about cells, such as observing different types of cells under microscope. 2. Use multimedia resources, animation, and interactive simulation to introduce the concept of cell structure. Provide students with various cell specimens to observe under microscopes. Guide them in identifying and comparing different cell types, focusing on similarities and differences in structure. Engage students in creating 3D models or interactive diagrams of cells using craft material or digital tools. Encourage collaboration and discussion about different organelles and their functions. Introduce the concept that cell structure are closely related to their function. And guide students in analyzing how shape and components of cell contribute to its role in organelles, and so on. This is biology. Finally, the final one, government. Government, Mr. Face. Separation of powers. So let's see. Traditional and teaching of a master. In separation of power, we start like this in normal class. Begin with definition of the 3 branches of government and their general functions. Yes. Yes, that's what we do now in class. Provide a broad overview of the concept of separation of powers. Teach students to memorize the roles of each branch of government. Focus on rote learning of the functions without exploring the nuances. Discuss the separation of powers using simplified description, focusing on preventing abuse of power. Exploration, dependency, and present a historical view of development of the concept of constitutional authority, and so on. Now let's see. Teaching for mastery. First, begin by discussing the fundamental concept of separation of powers. 2. Use relatable examples and historical context to illustrate the importance of preventing concentration of power. Engage students in interactive discussions about the 3 branches of government, executive, blah, blah, blah. Encourage students to brainstorm the functions of each branch and their relationships. Organize role-playing activities where students take on roles within each branch of government. Guide them in making decisions and experiencing the checks and balances inherent in system. Encourage students to analyze how conflicts between branches were resolved and the impact on governance. Provide students with scenarios that involve potential conflict between branches. Explore how different countries implement the concept of separation of power. Have students research and present on countries with successful or challenged system of checks and balances, and so on. I think that will be all. Oh, data processing, I forgot. So in this one too, the same way, because of time. And then we have the teaching for mastery method. Next, activity time. Everybody, check the topic on your own and write 3 traditional way and 3 teaching for mastery way. 5 minutes, you can start. When you are done, I will just call anybody. So if you don't do it, you are going to disappoint yourself. Oh. Of course, math teacher, don't dull yourself. I will call you first. Oh. So you should do your own. Oh. Mr. Osman, have you finished? No, strong man, bring your own. If you have finished, yes, I will give you to read out what you have. We still have 3 more minutes. After 3 minutes, I will call somebody. I will call 1 from each department. 1. 1 math, 1 English, 1 physics, 1 chemistry, 1 biology. And then maybe 1 economics. That will be all. Then we can continue. What we have next, there are just few. I will just summarize them. The core part is what we are doing now of this presentation. So the remaining part, we'll try to summarize it. You remember, many of us did not come back after break on time. For the next break, please come back on time so that it will not affect the next program. The next program is the interactive session where you are all expected to come with your laptops, your system to that venue. It's important. So 1 minute, 1 minute more, 1 minute more, 1 minute. Okay, I can see that some people have finished already. Okay, let's ask for a volunteer. Who wants to volunteer to say something on his own subject? Oh, Mr. Abdul Basit. Okay, I know him. Mr. First. Please, can you help me get one mic from brain? So Mr. Basit, I think, is physics. So he's going to tell us his own. I have the answers. I did my own too. So I'm going to send it to HODs so they can also send it, share it in the group. So you see my own answer to those questions on each of the subjects. So you can compare it with what you have written and what I have. I will send it to HOD. They will share it in your various groups so that you can see what is my own explanation. At least I gave about 4-4, but in this one I gave about 3-3. I want to do 3, but I of it. So in this, Mr. Bassett. Yes. Yes. Thank you. Yes, go ahead.
Okay. What I have here, the traditional approach. The first one, definition.
Your topic first is projectile motion,
yes.
Right?
Yes, physics topic, projectile motion.
Yes.
The traditional approach, the first one, teacher define the term, yes. Projectile motion,
yeah.
And give example of projectiles.
Yes.
2, teacher write the formulas on the board.
Yes.
And 3, teachers use the formulas of problems.
Yes.
So the teaching for mastery,
yes.
Teacher explain the basic concepts of projectile motion.
Thank you.
2, provide real-life examples of projectiles.
Thank you, very good.
And the last one, the use of simulations in class.
Thank you very much. A round of applause for you, please. Thank you so much. Thank you. Physics. Okay, maybe one more. Let me call my maths teacher. Anybody from maths department? Nobody. Chemistry? Biology? Government? Nobody? Mr. Abdul Malik, please. That's maths. Thank you. It's making me proud. Yes, thank you. Okay. First, tell us the topic, and then you can tell us the traditional and the mastery, teaching for mastery approach.
Okay, the topic we have here is equation, mathematics.
Yes.
For traditional approach, we're going to start by defining equations with examples.
Yes.
So we're going to start by solving simple example of equation.
Yes.
And the third approach will task students to know the level of their assimilation.
Yes.
Now, when we're teaching for mastery here, we're going to start by bringing real-life instances that involve equation.
Yes.
And the second approach here, we will ask students input, what they can make of the real-life question given to them. And after then, the third approach will now be to, based on their own input, come up with the definition of equation, then give example.
Yes. Thank you so much. A round of applause for him too. Thank you. Thank you. Maybe the answers a bit different from mine, but like I said, I will send to the group. You can see it and see what you can derive from it on those topics. Thank you so much for your time. Now let's move on quickly. Assessing for mastery, the traditional assessment and the mastery assessment. Traditional assessment, what do? We focus on assigning grades based on a fixed grading scale without considering the mastery level. So this is what we do. We just write exam, pass, grade them, and go. But in teaching for mastery, no. Evaluate students based on their level of mastery or learning objectives. Again, this one, of course, if you have to do something like this, we also have to change the system of NTIC. So we have to work, and that's why we are also discussing with the head office on, maybe not fully, but at least we'll try to implement some part of these things we are talking about. Because there's no point in us coming together, discussing something as useful as this, and at the end of the day, we will not have a room for us to implement all of this. So there's a deep discussion on what we need to do, and HODs will be informing us of what we need to do with respect to this. Formative assessment and summative assessment in the mastery framework. Formative assessment, of course, we know what it's all about. And then summative assessment, we also know what that is all about. Feedback and intervention in teaching for mastery. The role of feedback in mastery-based learning. 1, feedback should be timely, specific, focuses on areas of improvement, and next step to do. 2, encourages reflection and self-assessment. 3, reinforces progress and motivates students to continue learning. You know, in our last discussion, last seminar, I discussed something on positive framing, how we can frame our class, what we need to say out to our students, how we can encourage them to do well. Sir Fezullah too said that sometimes students, we need to encourage them. Some of them, of course, can be very nasty in the class, but not all of them. Even if they are, we should find a way of encouraging them to do well in the class. Then intervention strategies for struggling students. 1, targeted small group instruction or one-on-one support at this opportunity, scaffolded resources, or differentiated material. We'll discuss this one in the next slide. Scaffolding, it is not new to us. It is something we have been doing very well in NTIC. Break down complex tasks into smaller, manageable steps. Provide support materials such as graphic organizers or guided practice. Gradually reducing support as students. I've explained this one before, that if they move to one step, they have succeeded, move to another one. You don't have to stay on just one. Then strategy for differentiation instruction. Varied instructional materials and resources. 2, flexible grouping based on student readiness and interest. Of course, students will be ready to do all of this. But those that are interested, we should find a way to give them our best. Personalized learning plans to address specific learning goals. The importance of in teaching for mastery. 1, peer-to-peer learning promotes active and deeper understanding. Of course, when they are together, they can also learn more in assisting themselves. Encourages students to articulate their thinking and learn from others. Develops communication and teamwork skills. Next, classroom environment for mastery for teaching. And this is where positive framing is all about. It's very important. We have creating a positive and supportive classroom environment. Of course, if our environment is not creative, is not supportive, there's no way our students will do well. They will not even like us in the first instance. There are students that they know this subject, they want to do more, but they don't like you as a teacher. And that's why sometimes what we say in class is very important. What we utter to our students, we should be careful and say the best for them. Because like I do tell my teachers that if you say this student is stubborn and you want to say something bad to him, have you forgotten that you have children too? They are also stubborn. They do things that you don't like. But will you do that to them? No. So we should find a way to correct these students. And then later in life, they will understand what we are doing to them today. We have seen situations that students that we have taught here in NTIC that we consider as, this one is a rusticated student. Let him just go, leave the system. But they are coming back to school. We are seeing them doing well, greeting us. And then even we that were condemning them that time, we could not say this boy. Because we see what they have achieved in life. So sometimes students can be very funny in class, can be very disgusting sometimes. But as teachers or as parents, what we say to them is important for us. Establishing growth and mindset culture that values effort and perseverance, encouraging risk-taking and learning from mistakes, promoting a sense of community, and so on. Teachers as facilitator. Yes, our work is mainly to facilitate. Facilitation doesn't mean that we don't have to explain things in the class, but we let them do more of these things on their own. So there's no need explaining this more. We'll still send all of this. Now, this is where I need to explain very well, and I think it's very important. Mastery-based curriculum. You know, in Nigeria, the Ministry of Education will design what we do for us. But many of them are in the offices, but we are on the field. And that's why there should be synergy between those in the offices and those of us on the field. We know what is recommended, but in most cases, it is not like that. And that's why I gave that example of, there was a time, 1 year, when I was doing the scheme of work for the maths, and I put quadratic equation, polynomial before quadratic equation. And a teacher called my attention that, how is this possible? So I discovered that, yes, that is true. So in the following year, we have to change it. And this is how a curriculum should be. If a curriculum is not well designed, then there will be problem in implementation, and teachers will also face so much problem in class. And that's why the school management, which I believe many principals should have been here today listening to this, so that because they are the ones that have this interface with the school, with the resource center, and they can also table this one with them. So this, I believe, our curriculum should be good, that will allow us to implement this teaching format. Challenges and solutions. Of course, there will be challenges while implementing all of this. Overcoming resistance to change, managing time constraints and workload, supporting and struggling students. And then how do we solve the problem? One, providing professional development, training opportunity, coming together like this. I can learn from Mr. A. Mr. A can learn from Mr. B. And with this, we can change our system. We can learn how Mr. A is controlling his class. For instance, like in co-ed, and when I have new teachers that are just coming, I want them to come to co-ed, to meet co-ed teachers, and ask them how they are controlling their students. If they can learn from co-ed, and they're able to control students very well, I believe they'll be able to control students in voice and girls very well. So this is a way. So we need to meet, join hands together, and see how we can assist ourselves. On a final note, professional support, I've explained this, and parents and community. Parents is very important. We need their support. We cannot do it alone. And that's why parents is very important, and also the community by which we are. So by this, we come to the conclusion of this presentation. And in conclusion, I want to say this, that teaching for mastery offers a multiple of benefits that possibly impact students, teachers, and the overall educational system. By prioritizing depth of understanding and ensuring mastery of core concepts, teaching for mastery promotes a thorough and robust understanding of subject matter. Student develops critical thinking, problem-solving skills, and the ability to apply their knowledge in real-world context. This approach enhances student engagement, motivation, and self-confidence, leading to improved academic achievement. Thank you so much, my colleagues, for coming. I'm very grateful. Thank you. Because of time, we should go for a break now. And then when we are coming back, we are moving to our various interactive session. So please, I don't know, in your various groups, your HOD must have sent which class you are to use, or you have the paper, the agenda. So please check your class, and you should be there on time. Thank you so much.